going through some exercises that are great if you have proximal hamstring tendinopathy. Usually with proximal hamstring tendinopathy, you're going to have pain in sitting or when you're running or extending your leg, like if you're walking for a long period of time as well. So with that, you're going to have pain basically right under that glute, right where the hamstring connects to the pelvis. So it might even be tender if you're touching in there. Now with this hamstring tendinopathy, there's too much load going through the hamstring, specifically in the proximal part, which is why you have pain more up here versus down in the belly or in the distal part of the hamstring. With this hamstring tendinopathy, you want to load the hamstring, but you also want to offload the hamstring by strengthening the glutes, because the hamstring could be working what I like to call overtime for the glutes. So if the glutes aren't contracting like they should, maybe they're not strong enough, then those hamstrings are going to take over, especially if they're strong and over time. That can cause too much load through the hamstring. Another situation might be if the hamstrings are just weaker and they just need to be strengthened. So we're going to address both of those. So let's go through some exercises. The first exercise we're going to go through is called half kneeling pelvic tilt. So all you're going to do is get one leg in front, one leg behind. So ideally, the leg that's behind has the hamstring pain. And all you're going to do here, I'm just going to tuck my shirt. All you're going to do, hands are on your pelvis like so. And I'm going to push my pelvis into an anterior pelvic tilt. And I'm going into the extreme of this. So when I do that, my butt goes back, my belly kind of comes forward. And now I'm going to have my hands on my pelvis just so I can feel it. I'm going to tuck that pelvis all the way back. So past neutral, we're tucking it all the way back. So you can think about tucking your belly button in. You might feel even a stretch in your hip flexor, and you're going to feel maybe even a contraction in your glute max, but it's not necessarily going to happen. So now we're going to tuck all the way into an anterior pelvic tilt, and then tuck all the way into a posterior pelvic tilt. Now, I just want you to get used to moving your pelvis forward and backward so you can gain that control. And this one's really good for it because you're not in a standing position, you're not doing a dynamic activity. So let's tuck it forward, emphasize it, tuck it backward. As you tuck it backward, the last thing I'll say about that is make sure you don't kind of like slouch forward. Make sure your ribs don't collapse in. You want to make sure you stand tall. So a lot of the time when someone does a posterior pelvic tilt, you might see this. But ideally, you want to stand tall, keep your chest tall, and tuck back and forward. Back and forward. We're going to do about 20 of these here. You can join me. Hands on the pelvis is always good just to feel what's going on. If you're having trouble with this, you can even kind of like use your hands to guide your pelvis. Good. This is all about motor control, which means we're not into strengthening just yet. We're just focusing on your brain, telling your body what to do, and it's able to do it. Awesome. Let's do 3 more. Last one. Perfect. All right, next exercise, you're going to lay on your stomach. And this is where we're going into glute max activation, but we're turning off our hamstrings. So you're going to lay on your stomach, and you're going to put your hands in the front of your pelvis. So you can feel your 2 bones in the front of your pelvis on each side. And all you're going to do here, I just have my hands here, they're not doing anything. All I'm going to do is squeeze my glutes together right here. Squeeze, relax. Squeeze, relax. Now, when you do this, you should only feel your glute max contracting. So you should feel it contract, relax, contract, relax. With your hands in the front of your pelvis, the whole idea, as you contract your glute max, you squeeze, you relax, you should not feel the front of your pelvis pushing into your hands. Okay, so it should be, if anything, there should be little movement. Maybe it's moving a little bit more up towards the ceiling versus it pushing down into your hands. Now, if you're like, I don't feel the pelvis pushing into my hands, like I don't feel any movement, then you're good. If you feel any movement in the front of your hip, specifically in the side or on the side that you have a hamstring tendinopathy, then you want to work on keeping that pelvic bone so it doesn't push down into your hand, because that says that you're basically trying to turn on your hamstring and the femur is moving, causing the pelvis to move, which says, okay, well, the glute max is not, we're not isolating the glute max, basically. We're also turning on our hamstring. So with that, there's no real secret if you are pushing your pelvis into your hand. It's really just keep working on it, 20, 30, 40 reps at a time, so you can finally get it and it will click. So you might have to play around with it a little bit. Squeeze, relax, squeeze, relax. Good. If you really need help, you might bend your knees just to help take a little bit of hamstring out. But ideally your knees are straight. Good, that's exercise number 2. All right, the next 2 exercises are a little bit more challenging. They're targeting glute and hamstring. So ideally when you're running, they are working together, but glute max is turning on first when you're running, and then hamstring is guiding the leg through. It is not your powerhouse muscle for pushing off. That is your glute max's role, basically. So with these 2 exercises, we are working on a co-contraction between glute max and hamstring. So what you're gonna do, lay on the ground, and you're gonna start in a bridge position, so feet flat, and all you're gonna do is lift your feet up, so just your heels are on the ground, and then walk your feet out. Now this is a modification. If you wanna progress, you would go out a little bit further where your knees aren't as bent. I'm gonna start about here. So toes are up, heels are on the ground, arms are straight up. All we're gonna do is squeeze your glutes, lift up, hold, relax down. Lift up, hold, relax down. If you're like, okay, that's not that bad, walk them out, squeeze your glutes, and lift. Hold, relax down. Squeeze, lift. Hold, relax down. You can keep playing around with the angle of the hamstring. As you walk them out further, you're gonna feel it more in your hamstring. And relax down. If you wanna progress, you can do one-legged and relax, and then progress by getting that heel out further. You can play around with this. If you have a little bit of pain in your hamstring where it meets your sit bone, that's okay. With a tendinopathy, it's okay if you have like a little bit of pain where that hamstring meets, because you're trying, with a tendinopathy, you're trying to relayer these muscle fibers, and that might mean that's through contracting the muscle, contracting certain muscles appropriately, and that might mean there's just a little bit of pain. Now, it shouldn't be like sharp shooting pain. It should just be a little bit of pain, like light pain, 2 or 3 out of 10 pain, not anything more than, I would say, 5 out of 10 pain. All right, the last exercise we're gonna be doing is called bridge walkout. So with the last one that we did, it was more of an isometric hold into that bridge, hamstring bridge position. This one is a little bit more dynamic. So what you're gonna do, same position here, lift your butt up and walk your feet out as far as you can, and walk them back. Good, and then keep going. And you can hold for a second while it's out there, and walk back. Now as you do this, I like to have the hands on the front of the pelvis, because you don't want to feel rotation of your pelvis. You want to keep your front pelvic bones level as you walk them out and back. If there's a ton of rotation, I would just not walk out as far as a modification. And these are called bridge walkouts. So you can play around with those as well. Now, if you're having proximal hamstring tendinopathy, these exercises are great, but you're also going to want a plan that progresses you into the next set of exercises, and that's where the HIIT program can come into play. It's 12 weeks of rehab exercises that is designed for activating your glutes, progressing your glutes, activating that hamstring, progressing your hamstring into more of weight bearing and then single leg weight bearing to help you return to run pain-free. I will link it below, and if you have any questions, you can always email me. I'll drop that down below as well, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.